All right, good morning. We're going to get started this morning with an invocation led by Pastor Harvey Sparks III of Portland Avenue Baptist Church, and that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Todd Stone. Please stand as you are able.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with grateful hearts, acknowledging the dedication and service of the city leaders and workers who tirelessly labor to maintain and improve our community. Bless each person who serves our city, Lord, with strength and endurance as they carry out their duties. Protect them from harm and danger, both seen and unseen, as they fulfill their responsibilities to the best of their abilities. As we gather here today, we are reminded of your word, which instructs us to seek wisdom and guidance in all that we do. In Proverbs 3, we're told to trust in the Lord with all our heart and lean not on our own understanding, and in all our ways to submit to him. So we pray that you would grant these leaders, Lord, the humility to lean on your understanding rather than their own. As they deliberate over the matters before them, let your word be a lamp to their feet and a light to their path as they navigate the complexities of governance in our city. In James 1, we are assured that if any lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Therefore, we humbly ask for your wisdom to guide their decisions, knowing that you generously provide to those who seek you. May their discussions be guided by the principles of justice and mercy and love, as outlined in Micah 6:8, to act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with our God. But even as we pray for the welfare of our city and our leaders, may our ultimate hope rest in something greater. As the writer of Hebrews reminds us, for here we have no lasting city, but we seek the city that is to come. And so may our ultimate hope be found in the kingdom of God that is promised to us through the mighty work of Jesus Christ upon the cross. We entrust this meeting and all of its proceedings today into your hands, knowing that with you all things are possible. In Jesus' mighty and precious name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, Pastor Sparks, and thank you, Councilman Stone. I call this meeting of the City Council to order, and we have a few items under Office of the Mayor, including some recognitions, and I'll make my way to the front for those. All right, why don't we have our friends from Allied Arts come forward, because it is Allied Arts Month. Yeah. If you came down, you might as well stand up front. You're here at 8:30 in the morning. Let's make the most of it. She also has an item on the agenda, but yes, she's welcome to come forward too. All right. Well, first of all, thank you for the beautiful music this morning. Maybe you can mention who the artist was here in a moment. But first, we want to read this proclamation, and so I would ask the clerk to please do so.
Whereas the arts enhance every aspect of life in Oklahoma City, and whereas the arts contribute to economic development efforts, enrich quality of life, drive tourism, and exert a profound positive influence on the development of youth. And whereas youth arts education helps to foster imagination, self-expression, and creative problem-solving skills. And whereas youth arts education also helps underserved students in our community find their unique voice and path in life. And whereas Allied Arts has served as the champion of Central Oklahoma's cultural community. And whereas Allied Arts has distributed more than $91 million to the arts since 1971, improving Oklahoma City's quality of life in countless ways. And whereas the month of February is being recognized as Allied Arts Month by the mayor of the city of Oklahoma City, local businesses and nonprofits, and the community at large in recognition of the organization's vital support for our cultural community. Now therefore, I, David Holt, Mayor of the City of Oklahoma City, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2024 to be Allied Arts Month in Oklahoma City.
So as we know, Allied Arts provides, funding for dozens of community arts agencies here in our city. It's a venerable and vital organization, and as noted, but I think it's worth repeating, more than $91 million has been distributed through Allied Arts since its inception in 1971. Now we have a few representatives here. I might ask you, Sonny, real quick to, in fact, honor our artist who performed earlier. Just talk about that, and then introduce your co-chairs and anyone else who might want to speak, including perhaps Chairman Trotsky, I believe, has volunteered himself. So here you go.
Although he seems to be kind of hiding on the back row, so I'm not sure what that's about. Thank you, everybody, for giving us the opportunity to be here today. Thank you, Mayor, for this proclamation. And thank you to our friends at Arts Council Oklahoma City. Through your Art Moves program, you brought us Serafina Bird, the amazing performer who was out here this morning. We work as a partnership in the arts, and we feel really lucky to get to support each other in the work of growing Oklahoma City. As the proclamation states, Allied Arts was founded in 1971 by business and community leaders like you who knew that it was critical to invest in arts and culture to grow our city. And today, we're the 20th largest city in America.
Thank you, Sonny. No, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that recognition. And Jill and I are chairing the Allied Arts campaign this year. We're very excited about doing that. We have a big goal. I'm not sure we're going to do 91 million, but we're going to do our best to get there. But this is important. I mean, the arts are important and positive for not just our community, but also for our city. And we talk a lot about being a big league city, and this is a big part of it. So thank you for having us here.
Indeed. Well, let's hear it for our arts community and Allied Arts. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here this morning. All right, Master Sergeant Ailman? Is it Ailman? Alleman. Let's get it right. Master Sergeant Alleman, you are our Employee of the Month, and we'd love to learn a little bit more about you. And so I'd ask the clerk to read this resolution.
Whereas Master Sergeant Michael Alleman has been a city employee for 17 years with the police department. And whereas Master Sergeant Alleman is a sergeant with the Youth Enrichment Services Unit. And whereas Master Sergeant Alleman noticed that children were suffering at home and in school, so he helped develop a program for officers and school personnel to report residents that are struggling and in need of assistance. And whereas Master Sergeant Alleman worked to help create the Youth Enrichment Services Unit to assist with the overwhelming needs of school-aged children and their families. The program has become a model for other cities across the U.S., providing food, clothing, shelter, transportation, tutoring, and counseling services so families can see their children succeed. And whereas Master Sergeant Alleman's hard work has resulted in the YES unit serving over 63,000 children and their families since the inception of the program in 2014. And whereas through the YES unit, Master Sergeant Alleman humbly changed the lives of many people for the better with his leadership and innovation. And whereas this council desires to recognize Master Sergeant Alleman for his dedication, compassion, and commitment to the residents of the city of Oklahoma City. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the city of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Master Sergeant Michael Alleman, February 2024, South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month.
Thank you, and thank you, Master Sergeant Alleman, for your remarkable service to our city. We're very grateful for it, and we want to exhibit that gratitude by passing this resolution, and then maybe we'll hear a few words from you. So, but first, let's see if we can get a motion and a second. All right, we have it. Cast your votes. I wish to vote aye. Passes unanimously. Well, thank you so much again for your service, and we'd love to hear a few words from you, Master Sergeant.
Well, I'd just like to thank my immediate supervisors, Lieutenant Gamil Harden and Captain Michelle Henderson, for giving us the support we need as we support Oklahoma City Public Schools. But I would be remiss if I did not mention Tracy Alvarez with OKCPS and the relationship that we've been able to establish with OKCPS to provide the alert system internally and externally. So
Excellent. All
I
right.
appreciate them very much.
Well, thank you. Let's hear it for Master Sergeant Allen. Thank you so much. All right, Lauren Dial, please come down. Well, you're our Teacher of the Month, and we'd like to learn a little bit more about you, so I would ask the clerk to read this resolution.
Whereas Lauren Dial has been named Teacher of the Month for February 2024 by Edmond Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. And whereas Lauren received her bachelor's degree in early childhood education with special distinction from the University of Oklahoma. And whereas Lauren was named the 2023 District Teacher of the Year for Edmond Public Schools. And whereas Lauren is a member of the Edmond Public Schools Peer Coaching Academy, the Purposeful Play Committee, and the Foundation Advisory Board. And whereas Lauren is an Apple Certified Educator and a Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling Certified Educator. And whereas Lauren has taught kindergarten at Westfield Elementary since 2019, serves as the kindergarten team lead, serves on the Westfield Professional Learning Community Leadership Team, and has also served as the Westfield Site Conscious Discipline Coach. And whereas Lauren serves as a University of Central Oklahoma student-teacher mentor. And whereas Lauren came to teaching because of a desire to see students with special needs thrive in the general education classroom and a desire to teach in a manner that values the whole child. And whereas Lauren has made it her mission to make every student feel valued and loved for who they are, to help all students achieve high levels of learning by all means, and to equip her fellow educators with the knowledge and empathy they need in order to accomplish the same. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby recognize and commend Lauren Dial on her selection as the February 2024 Teacher of the Month by Edmond Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Lauren, for your remarkable service. And again, we'd like to illustrate our gratitude by passing this resolution. So if you'll give me a moment, we'll see if we can get a motion in a second. All right, we have it. Please cast your votes. I wish to vote aye. All right, passes unanimously. Well, again, thank you for all that you do. And you're a District Teacher of the Year, which feels like you're kind of slumming it here with us this morning. That's a big deal. So we'd love to hear a few words from you.
Of course. Thank you all so much. This is such an honor to be recognized in this way. Teaching is my passion, and I love it so much, but I would be so incorrect if I said that it had anything to do with what I do in my classroom alone or what I do in my school building alone. Teaching is not something that can be done well in a vacuum. It takes so many layers of support. My wonderful principal is here, and I'm so thankful for her and the support I get from her. The Edmond Public Schools Foundation is here today. We could not do what we do in our school district without their funding and all they contribute, and we also couldn't do what we do without all the layers that go on behind the scenes with government and all the people that are supporting our schools, passing laws, doing all those things. That way our kids can receive the education that they need and they deserve. If you do happen to live in the Edmond city limits, we have a bond vote coming up today. Edmond has passed our bond vote every single year for a long time now, and without that funding, our schools don't have what they need. So if you do live in Edmond city limits, please get out and vote today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Let's hear it for Lauren real quick. Thank you for that's yours. And by the way, Lauren, there are actually tens of thousands of our Oklahoma City residents who live in Edmond Public Schools. So you do not have to live in the city of Edmond to vote on that bond today. In fact, quite a few of our residents, starting in Quail Creek all the way north, will have that opportunity. So thank you for the reminder to get out and vote. All right, I'll make my way back up. All right, we are still on Office of the Mayor. Now we'll proceed into some work related to appointments. We'll begin with item C, 3C. This is a resolution amending the August resolution that established the Community Public Safety Advisory Board. At the time, we failed to include the terms of office. So as we got to the practical step of actually making the appointments, which you'll see in item D, it occurred to us we did not have terms, which is usually a pretty vital aspect of the appointment process. So this just adds that. They are 4-year terms and they are staggered. It's very standard compared to other boards that we've created in the last few years. So I would entertain a motion for this resolution amending the original resolution creating this board. You have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 8-1. And that brings us to our appointments. We have items D, E, and F. Item D is for Community Public Safety Advisory Board, the previously mentioned board. These, of course, are the inaugural appointments to this board.
I'd like to vote on this separate, please.
Okay, we can do that. Well, then we'll stay right there then.
Okay. I want to make a couple of comments before we cast our votes for this. I would like to, I made my comments when we talked about this before, probably in August. I'm assuming that's when this came before us. But as we look at the watering down of this effort that the Law Enforcement Task Force worked very hard to do, we spent over 2 years trying to make sure that we were working towards ways for equity and inclusion for all of our Oklahoma City residents. There were a few asks. An ask as far as the name is concerned, that was changed. There was an ask for the for also term limits, and I'm pretty sure that was changed. There was also an ask for the amendment of members of this body, and that was lessened instead of us having true representation. And the fact that the appointment of our mayor's appointment is going to be the chair of this committee, which I do not believe should be the appointment of one person, that this body should be able to choose who can and who will lead the charge in this effort for this particular advisory board, which should have been in what people asked for, and that was not what this name is. So as we move forward, I just do not understand why it is okay for a task force, and this is the second task force that I've been a part of, that the decisions are changed at the back end instead of all of us being able to have these conversations at the middle or at the beginning. And the mayor knew all of these things that were occurring as far as what these decisions were, and still decided to change the name, as influence the name change, as well as the appointment size. So this is my protest about this particular board, and I do not agree with what is taking place and how this particular body is moving forward.
All right, we can entertain a motion now to adopt the, or make the appointments.
Actually,
Yes, go ahead.
thanks. I just did a quick Google search. I typed in Community Public Safety Advisory Board. You're noticing a trend with me doing this, by the way. I like to Google things. I'm concerned because when we type in just those words, which are the words which appear on our agenda, the first thing that actually finally links you to the City of OKC's page, that result doesn't happen until 5 down, and it's the About page. And when one clicks on that About page, you do see the 6 items from the community policing resolution that we passed. You do see from the mayor the law enforcement de-escalation, the independent law enforcement accountability. So far, none of those are clickable links. There is nothing clickable on there. I'm hoping, I'll just pause there, that's coming.
Yeah, I will have to talk to staff to see exactly how that's going to work. I honestly don't know exactly how all that will work in the end.
Okay. Thanks. My next question is I'm fairly certain when we last spoke about this body, one of my requests was to make it clear on this landing page where someone would be able to make a complaint. Google right now, I don't see anything on here. Like when you land on this page, it is OKC Public Safety Partnership and the new design that goes with that. There's the recommendations, then there's the contact you can click. But the contact is to contact Andrea, who's a great person, great worker. But there's nothing. You click on recommendations. There's the timeline. The very simple ask that I had and that the community had was, where do they go when they have a concern in terms of a concerning encounter with law enforcement? And they did that ask 4 years ago this summer, as uncomfortable as it may be for us to have experienced and remember, because we were the second highest police department in terms of police-involved murders of their residents. I don't like saying that. I don't like experiencing the memories of those protests. I don't like bringing them to this body right now. But that is why we asked for the task force and the very basic idea of how does someone make that complaint about an unfortunate encounter with law enforcement. It's just not on this page. And so I hear what Councilwoman Nice is saying. It's like 4 years ago and 2 years worth of hard work, and it feels, I don't know. I don't know what, it doesn't feel right, is what I would say. Look at this page yourself. If I'm just missing it.
So Councilman Cooper, can I submit something to you?
Please do,
The board
Mayor.
is only being appointed today, so they obviously haven't been able to do anything yet. And I would think these would be great comments for them, and I believe they will rise to the occasion to meet your suggestion.
If I can say, I think the concern is the fact that we're not being transparent before the process, before these folks are appointed, in order for them to have fair reasons to be able to oversee and do the work that we have or whoever has asked for them to do. So that is the issue today. And unfortunately, again, here we are, another task force, another commission that has been whitewashed and watered down in order for it to in order to say, look what we have, and to brag about it on the national level, when in fact, the work is not being done on the local level.
And
Oh, go ahead.
I hear what you're saying, Mayor, I do. I just sent an email Thursday, I think, and then had to disappear into grading land over the weekend, and I'll check my email today to get a follow-up to this inquiry I had. But I had also asked last year for monthly meetings with the folk behind the implementation of these 39 recommendations. 2024 began without that monthly meeting. It began without it. I don't mind sending that email. I really don't, right? That is my job to do that work. My expectation, and I am someone who has very low expectations in this life, so that way I'm not disappointed. When the light turns green, I'm happy. But I would imagine when I ask for something like that, as a council member and as someone appointed to the Law Enforcement Task Force Group, as someone who authored with Amanda Carpenter, our former municipal councilor, the community policing resolution that this body passed unanimously, I would imagine when I make a simple request like monthly updates, that would happen. And it didn't happen. And it slipped right by, and then there's not even one on my calendar for this month either. I hate to make a big deal about it. it's just, and I am so happy that Nicole is about to represent Ward 2 on this body, but it's just frustrating. It makes me feel like, yeah, like we're about to pass this, and then when will the residents get their follow-through in terms of their ask, in terms of being able to clearly say, here's my complaint? Moreover, and concludingly, before someone just thinks I'm some sort of naysayer on this, I have, since I've been on this council, voted for every single council budget, save one, 2020. And I did that as a compromise because I wasn't comfortable doing it, because it didn't include the mental health alternative that was in the community policing resolution. And every year it was, we're getting there, hang on, James, we're getting there. It is now 4 years later this summer. And forgive me for feeling a bit concerned, right? I have trusted this process. And when I do a simple Google search to see follow through on this process, and I don't see that, number one, this is the link to where you go. And then when you get to where you go, how do you access it?
Yeah. So we are working through those issues, and we'll make sure that we get the update meeting scheduled and take care of that. I think, basically in our responses, like having that available, it's another step that we're taking with that. We wanted to get the board set before we started that process. Jason, do you have any other update on that as far as the timing of when they'd be able to submit online complaints or concerns?
Good morning, Jason Fairbrush, Assistant City Manager. So the complaint form that you had requested, Councilperson Cooper, it is on that OKC Public Safety webpage, partnership webpage. It's under recommendation 17. The city should establish a way for a resident to file a complaint. So it is on the front page. However, hearing what you're saying today, if you would like it at the top of the page to be even more prevalent, it's certainly something we can do. As far as, connecting, I don't know, the complaint form or other aspects of the public safety partnership page to how Google would identify it when you do a Google search. I'm not exactly sure how all that works. Certainly happy to work with PIM or someone else that can give us some guidance on that. Because we do want somebody to be able to very quickly and easily search for the information we're putting out there.
I hate that I'm having this conversation with Jason, because Jason is just one of the, in my estimate, in my experience, one of the most thoughtful workers in the city of OKC. So the concern and tone I have right now, I am going to try to do everything I can not to bring that to bear right now on someone who I have such high respect for.
You can direct it to me.
I'm open to constructive criticism as well,
yeah.
councilperson.
Why is it, maybe if I form it in terms of a question, why is it when a resident goes to the city, just okc.gov, why is it that when you have the drop-down menu at the top of the page, when you see the public safety partnership, it is under government and it just says OKC Public Safety Partnership? That language is vague. It is vague. How many of you knew that when you click that language means this is where I go to file a complaint when I encounter an unfortunate encounter with law enforcement? Shaking the heads, no. You would have to have read 1984 to know some sort of doublespeak to know what that means. It should be a clear, or why is it not a clear item in this drop-down menu? Why is it, I know, for instance, under city council in this drop-down menu, it says city council and then there's mayor. There should be maybe why are there not subcategories under OKC public safety that are linking residents to the
We
items
can,
that we all
we can
worked
certainly
on.
look at that. Didn't realize that was a concern. It's one that we want to try to have and make it available, but we can certainly look at it to see what we can do to improve that to make it more accessible.
And I guess that's ultimately my concern. Why was that not something we were thinking about? Why? It is Black History Month. It is Black History Month. It is Black History Month. Nikki Nice and I are the only, I'm writing an editorial with her right now, and it is hitting me so heavily. We are the first time 2 Black council members have served on this body at the same time. That is because the very first law, the first law the state of Oklahoma passed was segregation. The first law. And not only that, but then the grandfather clause that restricted Black people from being able to vote, thusly making sure that the very first Black person elected by the people of this state was removed from office, and there would not be another one of us until 1965. It should have been a paramount concern to do this correctly because of that history that residents spoke to on hours-long council meetings in the summer and spring of 2020. And they felt affirmed and heard when, Mayor, you created your law enforcement task force, when over 40 people from the FOP to the NAACP served. They felt affirmed when this body passed that community policing resolution. I, as their elected representative, do not feel affirmed right now. I feel ignored. I do not know why this is happening, because I'm not in any of your bodies or your hearts. I just know that when I go to the city of OKC's main page, there is an obfuscation. There is not a clear link to the follow-through of our work, and I don't know why.
I can tell you why.
Don't know why.
I can tell you why. It's because our mayor doesn't feel the importance or necessity of ensuring that all of those voices are heard in this representation because of the whitewashing of, again, this whole commission. That is the frustration.
I don't
the
have
commission.
anything to do with the way this is presented on the website. That's completely handled by
You
the
have
city
you
staff.
have
It's the first I've heard.
responsibility of how this was structured at the end after we made that
Absolutely not.
decision.
That is a joint decision. We all have the same
The
vote.
decision, we asked for the accountability, the name, and that came from the mayor's office of that change. And
No,
I have the
no, it did
paperwork
not.
that shows that it did.
No, it did
So
not.
I will make sure we post that today so
Okay.
people can see that that came from the mayor's office
I have
for this
no
title to
involvement
be
in the name of
changed.
the board, other than we voted on that topic as a body up here.
That happened
We
before
need to
we
move
voted.
on. This is an appointment. We let this conversation go into other areas, but ultimately we have to stick to the agenda, and today's topic is the appointment of the members of this board. I'm very grateful to those who will serve. I think they're going to do a great job. I think they're going to meet this moment, and I think they will be very receptive to the comments that have been made here today, and that's their job, is to move forward and make sure that these issues are prominent, that they're handled professionally and in the interest and on behalf of the people of Oklahoma City, and I think they're going to do that.
I was very clear that I did not know why this did not happen, so I want to make sure you heard that. I did not
Yes.
cast those aspersions on either of you two. But I did ask a question, and maybe you don't have that answer right now, city manager.
Yeah, it's
But why did these things not happen?
I don't know that I can give you an answer of why they aren't the way that you would like to see them and why they aren't better. It's something that we will definitely look at, and we'll make sure that we address that. I've definitely heard your concerns, and we will get those addressed.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the appointments found at 3D? We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 8-1. Items 3E and F can be taken with one motion. These are appointments to the Building Code Board of Appeals and the Plumbing Code Review and Appeals Commission. We We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And item 3G is a resolution approving travel expenses for me to attend the U.S. Conference of Mayors Civic I.O. Mayors Summit at South by Southwest in Austin, March 7th through 10th. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. This requires 6 affirmative votes and passes 8-1 and with the required 6 affirmative votes. There are no items from council today, and so we'll advance to item 5, city manager reports. We have items A and B. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, so we have the the Convention and Visitors Bureau fiscal year 2024 second quarter report. So that's available. If you have any questions to that, we're glad to respond. And then claims and payroll, so that's all that we have.
All right, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Item 6 are Journal of Council Proceedings. We have items A and B we can take with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 7 are requests for uncontested continuances. Is there anything on your list, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, beginning on page 14, item 11N1, dilapidated structures. Item F, 3400, these are all stricken from the agenda. Item F, 3400 Northwest 27th Street to re-notify for a new owner. Item G, 1529 Northeast 44th Street to re-notify for a new owner. And then on page 14, continuing with item 1101, unsecured structures. Item D, 415 Northwest 8th Street to re-notify for additional structures. Item I, 1529 Northeast 44th Street to re-notify for a new owner. Item J, 1517 Southwest 48th Street. The owner is secured. Item N, 8104 Northwest 114th Street. The owner is secured. Then continuing with item 11P1, all these items stricken from the agenda. Item F, 3400 Northwest 27th Street to re-notify for a new owner. And item H, 1529 Northeast 44th Street to re-notify for a new owner. That's all the items that I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Item 8 are revocable permits and events, and we have item 8A. This is a revocable right-of-way use permit with Stockyard City Main Street to hold the Stockyard City St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 16th. And we have Debbie Harrison here to speak.
Good morning, Mayor, Councilman, and Mr. Freeman. I can't believe it, but it's almost time again for the annual Stockyard City St. Patrick's Day Parade. It will be held on Saturday, March the 16th, starting at 10 a.m. And as is the tradition for our events in Stockyard City, it will be led by the Slash-O Ranch Longhorns. Following them will be the Grand Marshal, which this year we're very pleased to announce that it's Anita LaCava Swift, who is John Wayne's oldest granddaughter. She also serves on the National Cowboy Hall and Western Heritage Museum Board. We have a lot of equestrian entries that are already signed up to participate. There will be Clydesdales, lots of dog groups, which they're all dressed up in their regalia. Following the parade, we have McTaggart's Irish Dance Group that will be at Rodeo Cinema performing, and then we have lots of activities for kids. So with your permission, we'd like to proceed with the event, and if you have any questions, I'm here to address them.
All right, Councilwoman Hammond.
I don't have any questions, just it's always a really lovely time. I'm glad to hear there's more dogs. That's very exciting, so I'll move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. All right, we'll recess the council now and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority, where we have items A through I we can take with one motion, and staff has not requested executive session on H2.
I would like to move that we enter an executive session on item H2.
Okay. So we have let's bring that up. We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. This is a vote on H2 under the OCMFA agenda. Fails 2-6. So we're back on the OCMFA agenda, and items A through I could be taken.
Can we please vote on H separately, H1?
Certainly. So we'll pull out item H and see if we can get a motion on that. motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 6-2. Now we're back on the remainder of the OCMFA agenda, items A through G and I. We have a motion and a second to pass those remaining items. Passes unanimously. Now we'll adjourn OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we have items A through C we can take with one motion.
I actually have a few questions about item item B, since it's just one docket. I looked back, but I just couldn't recollect whether we had released an RFP for this management agreement for the multipurpose stadium.
We didn't do an RFP on this. This was one that was, it was intended, I think it was with the resolution, that we would have an operator that, with the soccer team, they're the only soccer team that was available. So it was understood, I thought, from the beginning that we'd be working with the professional soccer team that's here in Oklahoma City.
Well, I feel like we sort of went through a similar thing with the housing agreement, where we kind of knew there was only one really eligible applicant based on the resolution, but we still went through that process of releasing the RFP. And I think partially to me, that's like a accountability and transparency process, particularly even just for council to know that this process is happening and that a lease might be being written. Because I think one of my concerns is that looking through the lease, especially based on our conversations from the fall about leasing out city buildings to operate without language about the people who will be working in those buildings or those facilities. Seems like that might have been a conversation that could have been had in this process, and so just not us even being able to have that conversation to me feels like a process issue of kind of taking away actual council input and thereby the public's input onto how these lease and management agreements are formed. I think additionally, particularly, I have had complaints about private entities that run city facilities about how they treat their employees and the amount of turnover, only to learn that in our essentially management agreement with them, we have no opportunity or ability to investigate those sorts of things, and so or have any, again, like accountability of like what people working in publicly funded facilities are, how they're being treated. So that it seems odd to me that we wouldn't at least go through that process, at least for just the like accountability and transparency of how these management agreements and leases are formed. So again, it seems strange to me that we did it for this other MAPS 4 project that also seemed like there was only really one entity that could meet the requirements and not in this case.
Yeah, I would agree that with the Housing Authority situation that we believed they were probably going to be our best partner, but we knew there were others that out there, even a private developer could have made a proposal. But
they couldn't have, because it said government entity.
But we knew that there were others that were out there, like the Housing Finance Authority, others that are in that realm that do that work. And so we wanted to make sure that we went through that process. With this, there's only one professional soccer team, and so it was clearly understood within the resolution that was what the intent was. And so that's what we did, was negotiated with the professional soccer team that's here.
Okay, well, apparently it wasn't clear enough, because I was not clear on that. So I would like to vote on item B separately.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, then we can take item B separately. This is under the PPA agenda. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 7-1. All right, now we're on the remainder of the PPA agenda, items A and C, which we could take with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, we'll adjourn OCPPA and reconvene as the council. We are on page 3 of your printed agenda. Item 9, the consent docket. There are scheduled presentations relative to items AI through AL, item AU, and that is it. Is there anything else that a council member wishes to pull out for a separate vote or a separate question or comment?
Yes, I'd like to vote separately on item A, AT, and BA.
Those are all separate votes, you said.
Yes.
So item A, AT, and what was the last one?
BA.
Okay.
And I'd like to hear more on item T, please.
Okay. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll try to just go into
I would
our-
like to hear more about item AG.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll start with item A. This is a request for a separate vote on item A, the consent docket. So we'll need a motion in a second. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 7-1. Next up is item T. Councilman Carter, you wanted to discuss this?
Yes, sir. This has just kind of been an ongoing issue with this bridge and the contention in kind of the area, and so I'd just like to hear a little bit more about it, where we're at and when it'll be completed.
Okay.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Debbie Miller with Public Works Department. I can give you some more information on this project. We are trying to get this project complete. There is an issue with one of the spans that we're continuing to work on with the architect and the contractor, and we're very close to having that ready to be completed.
So it's usable? Like even currently usable, or it's not a use?
No, it is in use. We do have some scaffolding up underneath there to make sure that there's not any issues. It's more of protection for the contractor and the city. But yes, it should be open and available for use.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Next up is item AG. Councilwoman Nice?
Yes, I just wanted to hear more information about what the proposals, as far as what the proposal to be advertised will entail and what we're looking for and who can be eligible to apply.
So I've got someone I think coming into here, but I'll go ahead and start with this. The idea with this is to have public relations firm working with us with our public safety partnership group with the different projects that we're doing to get the information out, to be able to communicate that publicly and make sure people know what we're doing and know what's being, what the activities are. It's police and fire department because we're looking at with the mental health response being managed through the fire department, so it includes both. Be for all these, any of the programs that are under public safety partnership, and even some of the things like we talked about this morning with how we're managing our communications and getting information out to the public. And anyone who is qualified that does these services could apply.
Do we have a date as far as when this will begin? And I'm noticing it has to be received by April 3rd, so when will this be posted for advertisement?
It'll be posted tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, next up, we have a presentation that's going to cover items AI, AJ, AK, and AL.
Good morning, Britt Bryant, Finance Department. We have 4 items on the agenda today for you related to our general obligation bond program. This year will be our 7th sale from the 2017 GEO bond authorization that was approved by the voters in 2017, which totaled $967.5 million. To date, we've issued about $620.3 million, and with this year's sales, we'll have a balance of approximately $226.6 million remaining. With your approval of these items, we will issue both tax-exempt bonds and taxable bonds. Starting with item AI and AJ, we are seeking approval for the sale of $110,220 million in tax-exempt GO bonds. The bond proceeds will fund approximately $81.5 million of street projects, and the balance is spread over 7 other categories. Item AI is the resolution authorizing the sale, and item AJ introduces an ordinance and sets a final hearing for March 26th. Items AK and AL seek your approval to issue $10,280,000 in taxable general obligation bonds to support the building of a new clubhouse at the Hefner Golf Course. Item AK is the resolution authorizing the sale, and IAL introduces the ordinance again and sets a public hearing for March 26th. We'll be meeting this month with both Standard & Poor's and Moody's Investor Services to obtain our annual bond ratings, and it's our expectation that we will remain a AAA-rated city. Again, our plan is to sell the bonds on a competitive basis as prescribed by law on March 26th at 8:30. We will need to sell them with an emergency because we actually award the bonds on that day. And so we'll need at least 7 votes on that day. So if you're not planning to attend the council meeting, we'd really like to know that sooner rather than later. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Councilwoman Hammond has requested a separate vote on item AT. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 7-1. And now we are on AU, and I believe this has a presentation.
So David Todd, our MAPS program manager, will present the project, and then we have one of our engineers that's working on the project who will talk about the details of the project.
Yeah,
Sorry.
That's right. Good morning, David Todd, MAPS Program Manager. Really happy to be bringing you this first project for new shelters for bus stops. We've worked really closely with Embark and Public Works to identify this project. This is phase 1 of 2 phases that will be coming. So Lydia Leslie from Kimley Horn is our engineer, and she's here to go over the project real quickly.
Thank you. So as David said, this is our goal is to make these ADA accessible, providing a good boarding and lighting for everyone and a concrete pad and accessible to sidewalks. And we'll also be putting in these shelters. So you've seen these shelters across the city. In some locations, our goal is to expand that in all the bus stops that we can, budget-wise. So this shelter that I'm showing you is a 5-foot in depth and 8-foot wide. It has a trash can and a bench seat. So we'll also be putting in some shelters that are 12-foot long and some that are 16-foot long. This is all based on ridership. We worked with Embark to understand the ridership of each bus stop and try to prioritize those bus stops that had the higher riderships. You can see in the bottom left, the diagram shows that the majority of these will be 8-foot wide long shelters, and the others, the 12-foot long shelters, would be those that 10 to 20 riders. We have 12 of those, and those that are 20-plus riders, we have 3 of those in locations. And you can see the bus stop IDs are on the right-hand side of those locations. We're in the process of acquiring right-of-way for these stops. Of the 250 stops that we studied, 50 of those require permanent right-of-way. So in the phase 1 portion of the project, we anticipate putting 28 right-of-way parcels in that phase 1, and phase 2 will be doing 22 right-of-way parcels. But we're going to go ahead and try to acquire all 50 right now. So we're, like David said, we are trying to coordinate well with Embark and Public Works and trying to get you the best price that we can on these. So what we're doing is we're putting the paving flat work and the contractor item that will be bid. And they will, after they complete that process, then we'll work with Tyler Outdoor Advertising and Embark, who currently have a contract together to provide shelters across the city. So we'll be purchasing MAPS money will be used to purchase under the existing city contract those shelters. and then Tyler Outdoor Media will be using their current contract to place those shelters in place. So looking at the budgets that we have, our estimated fixed limit of construction was $4.3 million. We looked at the current pricing, and the pricing is expanded since we reached that original budget. And we looking at 140 stops that will be allocated for our phase one. These will be in a unit price bidding, so we have some opportunity to perhaps get in more shelters than 140 if the unit prices come in a good price. And the right-of-way acquisition is $280,000, and like we see the breakdown of the estimated cost of the shelters and the estimated installation cost of those shelters as well, so for a total of $3.5 million for our anticipated construction cost. And for, like I said, to try to get the most as we can, we're going to allocate a few stops in base bid as our base element. So we'll have 102 stops in our base bid, and we'll break down those into alternates for 10 stops, and all those that are needing right-of-way, we'll put in another alternate. And like I said, we have a unit cost associated with those, so as we are able to add more shelters, we will have that opportunity. And so we're on track for our schedule. We'll be advertising for bids after this council meeting is approved, and then we'll have our bid opening in March, and with an estimated construction completion of April of 2025. Thank you.
Mayor, I need to recuse myself on that.
Oh, okay. Then we'll have a separate vote, and we'll give you a moment to step out. Are there any other comments or questions about this?
I do. I had a question. As far as when we understand these will be implemented and placed, is there a timeline for when we'll know, like, ward specific, when those are occurring? So therefore, you know, we as the council members can communicate that to our residents?
Our plan is to work with the contractor diligently, and the pre-bid conference will be talking about phasing, and he'll present a schedule to us for his phasing. And we can't put all 140 at one time, so we'll definitely be working in small groups of areas. So I'm sure you could be notified of that schedule when we have it.
I just want to make sure we are, at least if there are any in Ward 7, that we are notified about that. So, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, same with Ward 2. I mean, I would hope all the council members would want that, but maybe they don't. But I can just assure you, like, walkability and public transportation, as you've heard me say many times, these are just top of the mind priorities for at least the majority of Ward 2 residents. So I'd like to be able to let them know as they're happening, because they'll get to see that their maps vote mattered. So thanks.
Okay, well, if there's no other comments, we'll take a separate vote on that item, item AU. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, next up was a separate vote requested on item BA by Councilwoman Hamel. So we could take a motion on that. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 6-1. All right, that was the last item pulled out for any separate consideration. So we can now take the remainder of the consent docket with one vote. This is a motion to adopt the remainder of the consent docket except for those items previously considered. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, now we're on item 10, the concurrence docket. We have items A through J we could take with one motion.
I would like to vote separately on item J. I understand that it has already been received, but I still want to vote separately. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's do that first then. We'll have item J. So let's see if we can get a motion for that. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 7-1. And now we can take items A through I on the concurrence docket. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, that brings us to 11, items requiring separate votes. We'll begin with 11A. This is an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval, rezoning 2321 Northwest 35th from R1 to R2. This was deferred from January 30th. Councilman Cooper, there are some, oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. No one has signed up to speak.
Thanks, Mayor.
Or maybe somebody has.
Well,
nope, nobody has.
But I'm guessing this is the young man I spoke with via the internet.
Yes.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about your project, please?
So my name's Brandon O'Brien, representing Garcia's Construction. We're just looking for approval to build a duplex on this one lot here on Northwest 35th Street.
Does this presentation happen to have the early design in it? I'm curious. I know my packet did, but I don't know if the one we're able to show people.
I do not know. I know that you had requested me to send over that floor plan, and I had sent it over, if that's what you're referring to.
It wasn't so much the floor plan. It was, and I don't know if I need to make this as a technical evaluation amendment right now, but we had talked about, it's a duplex, right?
That's correct, yes.
And along the side where there's going to be a driveway, at the front, I had requested a window.
So yes, where the driveway is actually going to be going, there are windows all across the front of the property.
But there weren't in what you showed me. Remember this?
Yes, but the floor plan that I did send over after I gave you the example did have that, those windows on the drive side.
But I guess my question is, so you might have sent that in an email, but that wasn't part of the what planning approved. And so I need to make sure that that is in fact something. See, the language that we approve right here is ultimately what parameters in which you'll be working, right? And so I guess, is that a question for, I'm seeing Councilman Stonecipher already looking, but
yeah.
Craig or Kenny, what do I need to do to make sure?
Jeff, can you answer that?
So I think it's a good project, but as we spoke about, on the Zoom call, we need to make sure that that front part has the window there.
Jeff Butler, Planning Director. If I understand the question correctly, we can't condition a straight zone. So that's, it would have to be a SPUD for us to be able to add conditions to anything that's beyond what's in the regular zoning.
Okay, so I guess out of the goodness of your heart, you'll be doing this.
No, like I said, if you the email that I did send, you can see the windows that are facing the drive portion, which faces the west. I know your concern was being able to the look of it as far as not having windows. The way the houses or the way the duplex is positioned, it's all the way on the east side of the lot, so it's going to be about 6 foot away from the neighbor. That's the back side of the property that's not going to have the windows, but the majority of the property actually faces, or is on the west side of where the building is going to be, and there are windows galore over there on that side, on the west side of the property.
Wait, am I hearing you right? So what we talked about on the call, that part by the driveway, that is not going to have the window?
No, it is.
Okay,
it
just
is.
wanted to clarify
Yes,
there.
100%. Yes.
Okay, it's just these things matter. I mean, I've seen where sometimes someone will build something that's just like a storage shed instead of a home, and that I just want to avoid that for both the people living inside that, but also the residents who will be their neighbors. So
Completely understand. Did you have a chance to look at the email?
do you know I did not. When did
Okay.
you send that?
Right after we got off the call that day. The gentleman that was on the call did respond back and said thank you for sending those.
Yes, I did. That's right. Okay, good. All right, that's great. I'll move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 11B is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, rezoning 10807 Southwest 29th from AA to PUD 1976. Councilwoman Peck, someone has signed up to speak.
Thank you. We'll hear from that individual first.
Okay, David Seiler.
This one?
10 seconds. I know, yeah. Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm David Seiler, 11001 Southwest 29th Street. I come to you guys today in opposition of 1976. I also bring an additional 658 signatures that we have diligently worked to acquire from surrounding neighbors. 1976 is designed for mass density in an urban sprawl area. The largest issue that my neighbors have, and also we have with 1976, is that it has a large majority of 30-foot lots. 30-foot lots for this area are not conforming. It's going to create a significant number of issues. I'd just like to summarize them, and I'll keep my time brief. Currently, there's been 2 other 30-foot lot developments within 2 miles of this neighborhood. So if you guys were to pass this PUD, it would add an additional burden on the area, raising it to approximately 1,200 total 30-foot lots within 2 miles of the area on 2-lane roads. Currently, one of the largest things that we deal with in this area is the runoff in the area. Without proper detention, which they do have a detention pond scheduled, this creek already has blown out the main bridge on 29th Street 3 times in 7 years. City of Oklahoma City has had to come and replace that bridge 3 different times. Okay. Additionally, over Thanksgiving, this area that we're discussing had a total blackout on Thanksgiving. The blackout, I was told, was due to overconsumption or the stress on the system. Adding an additional 300 or 400 homes is not going to help. Just to clarify, the neighbors are not anti-development. That's not the case here. It's just its intensity on the area. If you look at the diagram up here, Kilpatrick has recently, and within the last few years,
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Say again?
30 seconds remaining.
It's a 3-minute limit, but I'll give you some, it's a 3-minute limit technically, but if you need to kind of a little bit more time.
Okay, thank you. The Kilpatrick has recently opened and is making significant congestion right there at Kilpatrick, 29th, and Sarah Road. Prior to Sarah Road being expanded to 4-lane, it would take me 30 minutes to go from the exit around to essentially the west side of the proposed development. That's like less than a mile, 30 minutes, okay? Right after council or commission, my mailbox was hit and totaled the car. The next day, there was another accident. It's super congested. The only thing we ask is that we slow the mass density and allow the infrastructure to catch up. I would request that you guys vote no for 1976. Appreciate your time. Any questions?
Mr. Seiler, thank you for coming today and for sharing your opinion.
Thank you.
I'd like to hear from the applicant now.
Good morning, Mark Zitzow with Johnson & Associates on behalf of the applicant. Address is 1 East Sheridan Avenue.
I'm going to address just a few of the points, but this case is a little bit strange in that we've continued to hear about this petition with over 600 protesters. It's never been submitted to either our office and our understanding the staff. I'll point you to the second page of your council docket for this item. When it references protests, the staff has received 5, 0 of them being legal. So to this point, none of those have been officially turned in or submitted. Other items that he mentioned, the 30-foot lots. So the application was originally submitted with 30-foot lots. Through our neighborhood meeting and then through Planning Commission, that was actually removed. So the minimum lot width is now 40 feet in width. So hopefully that appeases the neighbors. But Sarah, if you could go to the next slide. Real quickly, this plan conforms with both comprehensive plan and the housing study. It's providing not just multiple housing types, but multiple price points, all within the same neighborhood. There's 50-foot wide lots, there's 40-foot wide lots, and then there's the potential for duplex. So if you could go to the next slide. This is not the first project in this area. We are not bringing the density to Southwest Oklahoma City. What you'll see, everything in green are actually PUDs that allow for less than R1 standard lots. So that's what we're seeking here. It's in the area as a significant development, including a lot of multifamily. We're at the intersection of a turnpike and a major arterial. If you go to the next slide. The city, in anticipation of this growth, has invested significant dollars. Southwest 15th was widened, Sarah was widened, and 29th was recently resurfaced. So we believe that this area is well suited for the growth, which is why staff recommended approval, as did Planning Commission. So if you could just go to the summary slide, Sarah. One more slide. So post the neighborhood meeting where we had about 30 folks show up, and then at the Planning Commission where I think there was about 6, we've made all of these changes to the document in an attempt to appease the neighbors. That included a 20-foot buffer on the west side of the property, requiring 50-foot lots along the west side. We blended the lots. This was from Planning Commission. So we've eliminated all of the 30-foot lots. So now the narrowest lot that will be in the development is 40 feet. We have a minimum of 60 foot for the duplex lots. We've put a cap on the density at 6 units an acre. The comp plan calls for a range from 4 to 8, so we are right in the middle of that. We do not consider that high density, nor does the staff from a comp planning standpoint. The open space is probably the biggest piece of this. We've committed to 25% of the site to be open space. We're constructing a detention pond regardless of whether or not the staff says that it's required, and that's in the PUD as a requirement. We have architectural regulations. We've also doubled the number of street trees along 29th. And then one of the main concerns that came out of this was the fencing along both 29th and the turnpike, that with smaller lots, you may have aging fences that get stained different colors that are in disrepair. So what we've agreed to, and you'll see as a plat note when that goes before Planning Commission, is that the HOA is going to maintain all of the perimeter fencing to make sure that the corridors remain attractive and well maintained. So with that, happy to answer any additional questions, but we would ask for your approval today.
I just have one, if you don't mind. I'm looking in comparison to the area that would be south of this proposed development, and if you would, Ms. Sarah, will you pull up? Yeah, that's what I want to see right there. About in comparison to these neighborhoods, what are the pros and cons? If I know that's a loaded question for you, but what are the pros and cons of your development in comparison to what already exists around this area?
Sure. So from a resident standpoint, if someone looking to purchase in this area, what this development has is varying lot sizes, varying housing typologies, and then varying price points. So right now, our developer is very passionate about showing and proving that you can build a community with smaller lots and still have high quality amenities at a solid price point. And so what we've done is increase the open space and put it in centrally located areas. So when you look at our green belt that runs through the center of it, that's allowing all residents, there will of course be sidewalks, back to the common area and the playground area on the east side, but then we also have another pocket park on the north side. So it's no surprise that Mustang School District is a very attractive school district. And so what we're trying to do is allow families an opportunity to buy into this part of town at a different price point that really doesn't exist today.
You good? Thank you. Mr. City Manager, maybe you know off the top of your head, and because I don't have the map in front of me, but Southwest 29th Street, there west of Sarah Road, it's 2 lanes today.
Yes,
it
it
narrows
is.
down
It is.
to that. Do you recall if it's on?
I don't recall on that one if we have it planned on the GO bond. I know completing the 4-lane down Sarah, the length of Sarah to 15th is still underway. It's in progress now. I'm not positive on 29th Street.
Okay. You know, and we've got, last I heard, that on queue coming there across from the Brahms at the corner as well to service the community. I think the hard part for me is definitely the size of it, but at the end of the day, I do think that it meets all of the code requirements and all of the expectations of Plan OKC, and so despite my concerns about the density and the traffic through that area, I think as a city, we have some work to do out there to improve the infrastructure. And I'll make a commitment to the community to continue to do some road widening there on 29th Street. And Mark, I'd appreciate your help in support of that as well. So with all of that, I will go ahead and move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item 11C is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, closing a portion of Northwest 65th Street, or the right-of-way, I guess, west of Chartel and south of 66th. Councilman Cooper?
No one has signed up to speak. Is that what I'm to understand? But
correct.
Is the applicant or their counsel? Yeah. This feels like a bit of a sequel, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Good morning, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. You may recall that you previously approved the SPUD 1488 for multifamily development. An individual, well, it's a lengthy story. My client ended up buying the R1 triangle that will now allow him to own both sides of the right-of-way, so we're seeking to close the last remaining portion of Northwest 65th Street, which will allow us to build the project.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking time to share that backstory, and there were a lot of moving parts to make make this proposal work, and so I'll vote in favor of moving us forward here too.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item D is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, closing all of the alley, et cetera, in the Highland Addition near Broadway Extension and Northwest 85th. Councilman Cooper.
Would it be possible for staff maybe to speak to a little bit about what this is? Or I don't know that this was or is this you? You did, okay. Hi again.
Mark Sitzow, Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue. About a month ago, you all approved a PUD for the Unison project. After the survey was completed, a 10-foot wide alley was shown. This is cleanup work. It's given its width, it's not actually usable from an alley. It was never opened or paved. So we're simply seeking to close it to allow for the development to commence.
That's right. There we go. Well, this is just the day of sequels to original proposals, so we'll just move for approval on that one as well. Thank you, Mark.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, now we're at items E and F that are related to each other. They're both addressing the sign code. Item E is the ordinance. This is the third of 3 meetings on this topic, and then F relates to the fees related to the ordinance.
Could have been worse.
There's no further presentation, and no one has signed up to speak. But
Your Honor,
yes.
one thing, we need to consider an amendment today. There's a handout that everybody had. Let me give a little backdrop for this. This is a proposed amendment to the sign code. We're dating back to 2020. We're planning, and a consultant began work on revising our sign code, which was necessitated by 2 federal court cases. One went all the way to the Supreme Court, which is known as Reagan International versus the City of Austin. The one thing that I think that needs to be pointed out about this process, and planning did a great job with extensive outreach to stakeholders, artists, sign industry representatives, developers, and ODOT. This process worked. A lot of people were involved, and it comes down to, and I talked to Laura McDivitt about this today, one of the concerned citizen about the definition of on-premises sign, which adds 5 words. In my opinion, I think it gives a little more clarity to the definition. I don't think it's really necessary, but in an effort to make everybody on board and happy with these changes, we'd recommend that the 5 words be added to the definition of on-premises sign. The words are exclusively, either, or non-commercial copy. And so I'd first move to make that amendment to the proposed sign code.
Okay, so the motion is to amend the proposed ordinance on item E to reflect the amendment that has been printed and handed out to every council member, and obviously the clerk has a copy.
Which I'd ask be made a part of the record.
Yes. And so let's see if we can bring up a motion for that amendment.
Councilman, can you help me understand those words? Like why?
I think Laura is probably best to completely explain that. I don't know, I hate to put you on the spot, but in my view of it, it's just to make sure that there is clarity as to non-commercial content. Did I say that right?
Yes, that is accurate. Laura McDevitt in the City Attorney's Office. So the proposed amendment today really just is, the goal is to clarify that on-premise sign should only be displaying information related to what is going on the premise or non-commercial speech, expressive, political speech, or other things that would not otherwise be regulated.
So they can put up a sign for a political candidate or something?
So within the square footage that is allowed, excuse me, for a particular property, they would be able to display any kind of expressive or political speech in addition to, if it's Taco Bell, they can display information about the food that they have on the menu, or they could also express support for a political candidate or other non-commercial speech.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. If there's no further discussion, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. So now we're back on the ordinance at item E as amended. And if there's no further discussion or questions, we could take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
And again, I want to thank the Planning Department. They did an excellent job on this project. It was a very difficult process.
I appreciate you saying that. There's been a ton of work on this. A lot of people have participated, and I appreciate all those who've participated and worked with us on this, and Elisa's leadership with Planning Department staff, so thank you for saying that.
Okay, so an emergency is requested on this that will avoid significant printing costs. It's a somewhat thousands of dollars of taxpayer dollars will be saved if you pass the emergency on this. That's the real reason for the staff request. So if the council is so willing, we would entertain a motion. So motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, now we're on item F, which is related to the sign code, and this directly relates to the general schedule of fees in Chapter 60 related to sign code. Similarly to item E, this is on the third meeting this item has appeared.
Before we take the vote, I do want to reemphasize my opposition of fees being established in regards to a sign and those who may have limited funds in order for them to be able to purchase and receive stickers that will be on those signs after you pay that permit price. So that I still have an issue with that as far as those fees are concerned. So I will be voting in the negative or nay for this.
Okay, so we're on item 11F, and we can entertain a motion for passage. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 8-1. And then for similar reasons, staff requests us consider the emergency. Again, it's up to the council, but that is the request. All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 8-1, and with the required 7 votes for the emergency. Okay, now we are on 11G, and 11G, H, I, J, K are all related, and there's going to be a lot of votes here.
Yeah.
I think I counted, it's 12 total votes, but before we get there, we have a presentation.
So Scott Wise with Development Services is going to give us a presentation. We were going to give a presentation just over all of the changes that are in here. It's a lot of information. If there's a place in there when he's presenting this that you have a question, or if you'd like to try to vote this separate, you know, go through the changes on one and then vote on that one before we move forward, we can do that. But our plan was for him just to give an overview of all the changes that are incorporated in all of these, and then you can come back and do all the votes that are included. So we'll start on that path unless we need to make a change.
Okay, thank you. Scott Wise, Development Center Manager. Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. This morning I'm addressing the adoption and update of our local building codes necessary to continue the safe construction of residential and commercial structures within Oklahoma City. All right. Oklahoma state law requires that all jurisdictions adopt and enforce various building codes, which the state itself has passed into law through the Oklahoma Uniform Building Code Commission. Local jurisdictions are then given the directive to formally adopt such codes while retaining the ability to add amendments with at least equal or more stringent language. All right. These ordinances are specifically intended to adopt the 2018 International Mechanical, Plumbing, Fuel Gas, Commercial Building, Residential Building, and existing building codes, along with the fire code, and along with the added city amendments. It is these code regulations and proposed amendments which govern every aspect of the design and construction of all structures and dictate such relevant details as the fire detection and protection systems, emergency means of egress, occupant loads, and restroom fixture requirements, among others. These ordinances and related resolutions are a result of the collaborative effort made between the City of Oklahoma City, our various code commissions, our city staff members, and members of the general public who helped attend. And it reflects the interests of the residents, builders, and developers of the city. With that, some of the significant changes I'll go over, starting with those reflected on item 11G for the building, existing building, and residential codes. The residential code only had one major significant change, and that's just to increase the required wind load for construction from 90 miles an hour to 115. That's in line with what the code itself says. We've just been at a lower miles per hour rate for the last number of years. For the commercial building code, we saw a few more significant changes there. Among those are the shared common use areas. Those are now better defined. These would be similar to shared lobbies between tenant spaces. Sometimes they like to share a restroom or things like that. This would better define how those are designed and require such locations as having a means of egress directly to the outside of the building for fire safety. In the building code, we also have various changes to the storm shelter requirements. These would be for schools primarily. So for existing structures, any school moving into an existing location that was not a school before would now have to comply with the requirements of providing a storm shelter. This was not required before, so that is a major change. Apart from that, we have made certain concessions dealing with the Oklahoma City School Boards and others. School storm shelters will now be required where an occupant load of 50 or more is added. Previously, this was a requirement where any square footage was added, so it's somewhat of a compromise for smaller work they intend to do. School shelters will now also be able to design design the storm shelter based on the maximum student enrollment and faculty numbers rather than the occupant load used to calculate means of egress. So that's kind of a concession. This allows greater flexibility for the schools while still safeguarding the lives of the children. The final significant change for building code in existing buildings is going to be the addition of the adult changing stations. So these will be now required for retail, assembly, universities, and K through 12th grade assembly areas where they have a higher occupant load. These would entail a changing station platform able to lift up to 350 pounds, and which will raise and lower to assist the caretaker in the helping of changing those they're dealing with. Such lifts, like I said, will be primarily added to family restrooms that you would already currently see on location. So those are the significant changes dealing with the building code, existing building code, and residential. Now moving on to item 11H, fire code.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Where will we find that list you just walked us through, like in the memo?
Okay. Yeah, I don't believe they're actually listed in the memo. These are going to be in the resolutions themselves. I'm sure we could provide that to you after the fact if necessary.
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on, significant changes for the fire code. This will be the item 11H, I believe, yes. For the significant changes to the fire code, the fire marshal's office had clarified standards for outdoor pallet storage. We have updates to school security lockdown provisions. We have updates to emergency responder radio communication standards. And then there's new changes to the battery storage systems for alternate fuel vehicles. So those will be the significant changes for item 11H for fire code. The next item, item 11I, pertaining to mechanical and fuel gas codes. For that, let's see, the primary significant changes for that, for the fuel gas code, gas-fired appliances are now clarified as not being permitted in spray foam attics. The reason being that they are sealed to an extent they can't provide return air for combustion. Let's see, there are no main significant changes to the mechanical code being made. So that's all we have for item 11I. From the next item, 11J, for plumbing. The primary change we have there is going to be that the potable drinking water and sewer supply connections are required where a structure is proposed within 500 feet of city services. This was previously 750 feet, so this is actually a reduction. This falls in line with the Utilities Department requirements from what I understand. The last item we have is item 11K. This is the general schedule of fees. Really the significant change there is clarifying language, bringing things up to speed. It also coordinates the boards of appeal fees for the plumbing, mechanical, and building code board of appeals, all to the same $100 amount. But really that's all that that item entails. So with that, I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you, Scott.
Any questions, comments? If not, we're going to go ahead.
Because I've got some text on this. We are just introducing this today. It is not a final vote, and people will have an opportunity to weigh in.
Right. It will come back on the 27th. Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, this does appear in all the cases listed here to be a two meeting cycle, just so you're aware, Councilman Stone Cipher, not 3 meetings. Okay. All right, well, I'll try to guide us through an odyssey of voting now. We will begin with G1. This is an ordinance to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. G2 is a resolution to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th, declaring the need for adoption of the International Building Code. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. G3 is a resolution to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th, declaring the need for adoption of the International Existing Building Code. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. G4 is a resolution to be introduced and set for final hearing February 27th, declaring the need for the adoption of the International Residential Code for 1- and 2-family dwellings. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now, H1 is an ordinance to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th relating to fire prevention and protection regulations. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. H2 is a resolution to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th, declaring the need for adoption of the International Fire Code. Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, I1 is an ordinance to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th relating to the Mechanical Code. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. I2 is a resolution to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th, declaring the need for the adoption of the International Mechanical Code. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. I3 is a resolution to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th, declaring the need for the adoption of the International Fuel Gas Code. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, J1 is an ordinance to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th relating to plumbing and the plumbing code. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item J2 is a resolution to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th, declaring the need for the adoption of the International Plumbing Code. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And 11K is an ordinance to be introduced and set for final hearing on February 27th relating to general schedule of fees for the Building, Electrical, Plumbing, and Mechanical Board of Appeals. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, all of these items, as previously mentioned, were just introduced today and are set for a final hearing on February 27th. Okay, now we advance to items L and M, which I believe are related. Item L is an ordinance to be introduced, set for public hearing February 27th, final hearing March 12th, relating to motor vehicles and traffic. Item M is an ordinance to be introduced, set for public hearing February 27th, and final hearing March 12th, relating to the same. And we're going to get a little bit of a presentation.
Yes, so Debbie Miller, our interim public works director, will give us a presentation on this. And these are items that came from the Traffic Commission, are being requested of the council.
Yes, item L is coming from the Traffic Commission. We have some situations where vehicles are trying to make left turns out of businesses and on a heavily traveled road, and it has caused some issues and safety concerns. So the Commission has asked that this become an administrative action that to be done by the Public Works, excuse me, director, instead of having to go through the commission, and it speeds up the process. And then on item, the next one, this is to make a few changes. This adds Juneteenth as a holiday to Chapter 32. It establishes a streetcar safety envelope. That was a request from Embark. And it also introduces our on-street parking standards, 90-degree pull-in and angled on when that's allowed and what the dimensions are required for that. We have been using these as a policy, but we'd like to get these into the code.
Thanks, Debbie.
Okay. Well, if there's no questions, we could take these one at a time, starting with item L. Again, this is being introduced today with a public hearing on the 27th and a final hearing March 12th. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item M, similarly, ordinance to be introduced after public hearing February 27th, final hearing March 12th. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. So those two previous items will have hearings on February 27th and final votes on March 12th. We'll now advance to 11N1. This is the public hearing regarding the dilapidated structures here listed, and we do have several people who have signed up to speak on item N1B, 709 Northeast 3rd Street. This item has been deferred on 3 separate occasions. Councilwoman Nice, would you like me to call up these folks? Arnez Williams?
Is it okay if we all come up at the same time?
I suppose. So Josh Dodson and Decavin Edwards.
Thanks. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Appreciate your time. I'm Josh Dodson. I'm a director at Restore OKC, a community development organization in Northeast Oklahoma City. And I'm here to show support for Ms. Arnez Williams, as well as Sonny Frazier and the Coven Edwards in the back of G13 Construction. Recently, it's been about two weeks ago, we were notified about the situation she's in with the notices on her home. So in the last 2 weeks, we've worked to secure partnerships to help address those notices, namely her roof. And so since then, we've partnered with G13 to get that resolved. We have a great relationship with the city. We've worked with Chief Building Inspector Chris Smith several times and currently are working on another home with him. But really our hope today is that you guys would defer one more time and allow us 30 days to make the roof repair and get the structure where it's supposed to be. I think that's all. I had a lot more written down, but that's the gist of it. Do you guys have questions? No? Okay.
Oh, everybody's looking at me.
Yeah.
So first, thank you. And I do have a letter from Restore as far as the work that they will be doing with Ms. Williams. And as you all may know, my goal was to ensure that we did not have to declare her structure dilapidated. The concern also is as far as it being unsecured. The reason it is also on our unsecured list is because of the roof. So that's the thing that they are working on, because I asked them if they could address at least the unsecured first, at least get one if we could. But all of these things work together in order for us to assist Ms. Williams with her property. And also talking to one of our municipal counselors and understanding the difference between the implications of us declaring it dilapidated are totally different than us going through the unsecured and abandoned process. So I want to be able to allow them to help and assist Ms. Williams in this effort to get her home restored, because again, it is a beautiful home built in 1925, and that type of history, in my opinion, should be able to be restored if we are able to do that. hence the name Restore. So thank you all. And I will ask, I had a meeting with the city manager yesterday and we kind of talked through it. So I did ask him, we talked about it, so I'm going to ask if we give them 4 weeks to get this taken care of, especially like right now. We had a couple weeks with the weather not being as favorable and even the last time. So I know we can get this taken care of and we have Ms. Williams in good hands to do that. So I'm going to ask that we defer this for 2 meetings and hopefully by that time it'll be worked out to where we will not have to see it again.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so we will entertain a motion here to defer item 11N1B to March 12th. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right.
Thank you.
Well, now we're on the remainder of the items, and no one else has signed up to speak under this public hearing.
No, they haven't.
So we'll move to item 2, the resolution declaring that the structures are dilapidated except for those previously struck or deferred. A motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 1101 is the public hearing regarding the unsecured structures here listed. Has anyone signed up to speak, Amy?
No, they haven't.
So we'll advance to the resolution found at item 2, declaring that the structures are unsecured. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, P1 is the public hearing regarding the abandoned buildings here listed. Councilwoman Nice, do you need deferral here as well?
Yes, please.
So item C, the motion will be to defer it to March 12th. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Amy, has anyone else signed up to speak in this public hearing?
No, they haven't.
So we'll advance to the resolution found at P2, declaring that the buildings are abandoned, except for those previously struck or deferred. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, 11Q is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust certifying that Keep Quiet Movie LLC's proposed feature film Project Silence is an eligible project under the Strategic Investment Program's Film Incentive Program and approving an allocation not to exceed $26,129. We have a presentation, Mr. City
Yes,
Manager?
Jill Simpson with the Oklahoma City Film Office is here to present the project.
Good morning, council members. I'm here to present a rebate application for a project called we're calling it codename Project Silence. And if you'll advance the slides, Joanna. It's a small budget film. It's character-driven drama. The filming dates are January 24th to February 16th. It was a unique situation. It was pre-qualified by the state. They were initially going to film in Tulsa and at the last minute shifted their plans to film here. So we were up against a pretty tight window. The producer and director, Vincent Grashaw and Cole Payne, filmed here in 2021, a film called What Josiah Saw. It's shot in Chickasha. And at that time, they utilized the Oklahoma City rebate, and so they were a tested production company. Right now, they are set up at Filmmakers Ranch, which was previously Green Pastures on the border of, in Oklahoma City, but on the border with Spencer. And the Oklahoma impact is that they are hiring 93% Oklahoma City-based crew and anticipated Oklahoma City local qualifying expenditures of $522,584, or 65% of their budget. This project, we have pre-qualified at the 5% level, and with the anticipated local spend of a little over $522,000, that gets them to a 5% amount of $26,129. And other considerations were they met the minimum budget criteria of $500,000. They're filming 50% of their days in Oklahoma City. Their main production office is located within Oklahoma City limits. And I'm really pleased they're doing post-production in Oklahoma City at their brand new post-production facility, Apex Post. And they're pre-qualified for the state incentive. They have a total of 150 local hires, and over that 18-day production schedule, that amounts to 2,700 what we call man days or work days. 93% Oklahoma City residents, qualifying labor income of $290,420. They're filming 50% of their production schedule at Filmmakers Ranch on their soundstage, which is also something we really like to see, that they're utilizing our facilities. And they're doing 100% of post-production, which is picture editing, sound editing, scoring, mixing, everything in Apex Post. And that's a sector of the industry that we really want to grow here. This is just reiterating some of the stats from before. 50% of filming days here, 93% of crew are local hires, 90% of vendors are local, and I have stressed to them to keep an eye towards diverse minority-owned companies. 93% of tech talent is local. After putting it through our internal economic modeler, the total impact of their expenditures is $1.5 million. Jobs supported, direct and indirect, are 165. Labor income is a little over 520,000. Qualified expenditures, 522, 584. Taxable expenditures, 95,937 for the city of Oklahoma City. And below the line salary and per diem, 275,676. Anybody have any questions, comments?
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and take up the matter then, if that's the council's desire. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Jill, for hanging out for a couple hours. We appreciate it. Okay, 11R is a resolution authorizing, approving, and ratifying the action taken by the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of a clean water state revolving fund promissory note to the OWRB in the amount not to exceed $370,000, and we have a presentation.
Yes, Chris Browning, our Water Utilities Director, just give us a few comments on this funding opportunity that we have with the Oklahoma Water Resources Board.
Good morning, Chris Browning, Utilities Director. Back in November, the Water Trust authorized an application to the Oklahoma Water Resources Board to secure funding to identify sources of PFAS and PFAS, that's forever chemicals that are entering into our sewer system. The Water Resources Board approved the application in an amount of $370,000. It is a fully forgivable loan, so it's a grant in a sense. So at this time, we would recommend approval of this item, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, no questions or comments? We could take up the resolution. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item 11S1 is a resolution authorizing the municipal council to confess judgment without admitting liability in the case of Cosper v. City of OKC. Staff has not requested executive session. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 11T1 is a resolution authorizing the municipal council to confess judgment without admitting liability in the case of Crenshaw, Woodson, and Minor Child versus City of OKC. Staff has not requested an executive session. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 6-1. And then we've got 11U1. This is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority authorizing the firm Collins, Zorn, and Wagner to represent city employee Rebecca Fry in the case of Bobo v. City of OKC. Staff has not requested executive session.
I'd like to request we enter executive session on this item.
All right, so we'll bring up a motion for item 11U2 to enter into executive session to discuss U1. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Fails 2-5. So we're back on the item U1, joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 5-2. And now we're on item V1, claims recommended for approval. Staff has not requested executive session. We can take items A and B together. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And now we're at item 12, comments from council. Ward 3, Ward 4, Ward 5, Ward 6, Ward 7.
Thank you. A couple of things. One, I wanted to mention, I didn't get to talk through this, but as far as my housing authority vote, I'm still having issues with the housing authority and us being able to hold them accountable as far as securing their properties. They have their abandoned buildings that they have within Northeast Oklahoma City are a blight to this part of our community, and it clearly shows that they have no regard for the residents nor my neighbors that live within this area. For the doors to be wide open, windows broken out, and the vandalism that has occurred on these properties. It, to me, again, shows their lack of caring for my neighbors, as well as the way they displaced, in my opinion, my residents that were previously there, because here we are years later and we still haven't seen them tear down one building. So that is clearly a concern for me pertaining to the housing authority. And it's okay for them to purchase other properties, but not figure out how to maintain their current ones. So I will continue to speak out about my concerns about what they are doing and what they choose not to do as far as my residents are concerned. I wanted to thank Representative Jason Lowe for the invitation to be a part of the Black History Month at the Capitol on yesterday. We were at the Capitol celebrating Black History Month, and it was a great occasion, and we had heard from the daughter of Clara Looper, Miss Marilyn Looper-Hildreth, giving words of encouragement, and from others, talking about some things that are happening within our communities, African-American communities, and also want to give a thanks and also continue to cheer on the Oklahoma Legislative Black Caucus in the work that they are doing to represent our African-Americans that reside throughout Oklahoma, and not just Oklahoma City, with the work that they're doing and the policies that they are working to establish. I see a couple of my residents here had a good time with my neighbors in Persimmon Hill, my neighborhood association yesterday for their meeting, neighborhood association meeting, and we'll be hearing about some of their concerns here soon. But just to be able to connect and touch with our neighborhood associations and understand, what's going on and how we as city officials can be good stewards to the people that we are serving is always, in my opinion, should be at the forefront of the things that we're doing. So I hope that as we continue to work through the rest of our issues, and when we hear what their concerns are, that we are able to put all of our minds together to figure out how we can better serve and assist with some of the things that are happening. And lastly, I want to continue to say Happy Black History Month. I think as we heard from Councilperson Cooper, one of the first enactments from our city, from our state, was to restrict and segregate public transportation in our state. However, in our city, in 1915, we established provisions that prevented African Americans from moving and living in certain parts of our city. They were subjected to stay south of 2nd Street only until continuously that was challenged upon challenge upon challenge when it was declared that it was unconstitutional. And being able to, again, understand the reasons for representation for our communities to have a voice, which is why I'm very passionate about the things that I speak out about in relation to, again, this law enforcement task force and the work that was done, because our communities had a voice and expected for their voices to be heard, and they were neglected that opportunity as far as when the final decision was made for them to be able to establish the membership and those requirements that they asked for. So happy Black History Month.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, if you haven't seen it, on February 2nd, it was announced that Oklahoma City is now ranked the #1 city for lowest cost of living among large cities. That would be cities exceeding 500,000 people. The 2023 annual cost of living index for Oklahoma City stands at an impressive 85.1, which is significant because it's 14.9 points below the national average. So if you have a child, a grandchild, a friend, or a business wanting to relocate, I'd encourage you to send this article to them where they compare Oklahoma City's cost of living versus the other major cities in the United States. Congratulations, OKC.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are at item 13, citizens to be heard. We have a few who have signed up to speak. Elisa Howell. And if everyone could state your name and address when you take the mic and keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less.
Elisa Howell, 2101 South Harvey Avenue. So as I sat here today, at the beginning, we said the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. And at the end, stating that it stood for justice and for liberty of all. But as I stand here and have listened to even the own city council members discuss that justice is not for everybody in our fair city. Where's the justice in hiring a public relations firm to help change the image of our police department while not honoring the communities that helped make that possible, or obfuscating the complaint form that goes with that image change? Where is that? Where is the justice in that? Where's the justice in our unhoused citizens when our tax dollars are being used overseas to unhouse more people, to unalive people? Where's the justice to our 12,000 Oklahoma City Muslim citizens whose families are being murdered using our tax dollars? Where's their justice? Where's the justice for our Oklahoma City citizens? When do we get it? When does it come here? I call on the City Council here today to draft and pass a resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire and demanding that our tax dollars be used in our homes, in our cities. For that is our part of the responsibility of the City Council, is to ensure that our state and the tax dollars that you collect are actually going where they should be going, back in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. William Quinn Berberet. Part of the reason for stating your own name is that you'll be able to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, it's William Quinn Berberet. I go by Quinn.
Okay.
I have some pamphlets that might kind of illustrate what I'm about to bring up a little bit better. If I could, I don't have enough for everybody, but. The reason I'm here today is to draw attention to activity, industrial type activity that we're seeing next to my home and some of my immediate neighbors' homes and the Persimmon Hill Neighborhood Association within their boundaries. This probably, when you see this, you might be surprised to see that this is going on in what appears to be zoned residential 1. Everything that I can tell, it's entirely residential 1 zoning. A company has moved in, and to the best of what I can have researched and found out, they're doing utility, horizontal boring, wastewater processing there. So I have a page on there telling what the company, from their About Us, posted publicly what they do. The pictures in that pamphlet shows what, those are all taken by me. They're what I'm seeing with my conjecture of what the activity actually is. The close picture of all the industrial-like activity with all the machines was taken from my neighbor who's here today. His name is Alton Parr, and that's about 20 feet from his property line, less than 100 feet from his house. What we're dealing with since they've moved in is they've cleared a tree lot. The lot had an existing oil well, so I don't know if that comes into play with how they're attempting to do what they're doing, but from what everything I can see, their activity does not involve anything with that well. That well existed prior to them. I've attempted to contact the Corporation Commission, numerous contact with the city, the Action Center, Department of Environmental Quality, trying to find out who regulates this activity and the noise and all the disturbance that comes with it. And I've heard they're not regulated. What I'm dealing with is the loud construction beeping from within my house. I can
30 seconds remaining.
I can hear the beeping. I step outside, it's very loud. I hear the vacuum trucks kicking on into the evening up until 8:45, 9 o'clock at night. Saturday morning, I hear the beeping of the equipment, and those are photos that I've taken, and some of that is what I've submitted to the Action Center already. So I just want to make you aware that if this type of activity can go into an R1, it could affect all of you, because I haven't found anything that can inhibit their actions so far. And I know, I wanted to thank Councilwoman Nice for coming to our neighborhood association meeting, and she's looking into it, so I wanted to thank her. But I'm waiting to hear what can be done to help us, so that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nadia Rashid.
Hi, my name is Nadia Rashid. My address is 5609 Northwest 111th Street. I believe I'm in Ward 8. And I am here today to urge all of you as city council members to begin thinking about writing a resolution in support of a ceasefire in Israel and Palestine. And I believe that that is something that we can all stand for, no matter who we support in this conflict, because no matter what happens, if we do not advocate for a ceasefire right now, more people are going to continue dying on both sides. I don't believe that this is an issue of who you stand with. This is an issue of saving lives. And it starts here at city government. We have been trying to advocate with our legislators, and we're struggling with that. We're struggling to get people to listen to us. And I am trying to spread the message that every avoidable death must be avoided. It is not okay to kill a child. There is no circumstance in which the life of a child should hold no value. And we are seeing thousands of children are dying. We have over 10,000 children are estimated to be dead right now in combined Palestine and Israel. And if you believe that a child's life is worth something, I believe that you should stand for a ceasefire for the sake of everyone on both sides of the conflict. And if anyone has any questions, I am open to answering those. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. James King?
Hello, James King, 10200 Hollyhead Way in Yukon. Today I'm speaking in protest of PUD 1983 by Mustang Creek Crossing LLC at 810 South John Kilpatrick Turnpike. The PUD in its current form caused problems for the surrounding residents due to the amount of special conditions and amendments they've been granted by the Planning Commission. This egregious oversight has already had a negative impact on some of the residents in the surrounding neighborhoods that are standing up to say no to this. We feel like no one's listening. I know you are, but the residents by the Zoo Amphitheater have complained so much that measures had to be put in place retroactively. We have the opportunity to make those changes before anyone has to suffer. The noise level limits for live music and amplified sound, they have stated in section 9.18, need to be lowered 5 decibels or 10 decibels, as well as an enforceable action set in place under PUD 1983. So if such noise level was exceeded, the measures in place will force action to be taken. Furthermore, 9.18 needs to have an enforceable action that can be taken if live music and amplified sound goes over curfew times they have set. I say enforceable action because there are sound ordinances in place for Oklahoma City, but they are not enforceable under this PUD. They are obligated to turn down the music or end a show, but that doesn't mean they will because it's not enforceable within the PUD. There's nothing in place that will keep them from doing what they want if the project is built. Please reject PUD 1983 in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you. Ronnie Kirk?
My name is Ronnie Kirk. My address, 2328 North Missouri. I'm not here today, or in that book, those are inserts I've been giving y'all all year. But today my concerns is the war. You know, Nixon started the war on drugs years ago. Oklahoma has finally won. 3 years ago, there are 7,400 applications for marijuana license. Today, they have over 10,000. If you go in any direction, within 4 blocks, you'll see all kind of marijuana houses. That's throughout the whole city. 4 or 5 of them in 1 block. And some blocks are 6. Nobody knows if you have a cap on them or not. They're still growing. 75% of the citizens, the kids, the adults, and the older people, gonna be hooked on marijuana, and it's illegal. They'll be hooked on it. No, just 2 days ago, at Joel Osteen's church, a woman walked off in there with an AR-15 and started shooting just 2 days ago. Without, since the time I've been down here in the last 2 weeks, Norman had 4 businesses that's been in businesses over 20 years closed. You know how many people take to run a weed house? 3. Working 12 hours a shift. That's even supplying security. They not out of no money because they selling something that a man's body or a kid or adult's body is craving. They making all kind of money. It's time for the city to put a halt to that. They made enough money.
30 seconds,
City
please.
made enough money. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Bruce?
Hello, my name is Kristen Bruce, and I live at 1601 Birkenhead Road. First, thank you for serving our city. You guys carry the heavy weight of decision-making. Thank you. The PUD 1983 Sunset Amphitheater was introduced today, and I protest the location of this development. To think of 12,000 people bombarding this quiet area for loud concerts with multiple neighborhoods in a 1-mile bubble is egregious. Common sense would tell anybody that there's a huge problem with noise. Just a quick search on Google by residents who complained of being near amphitheaters, and I found complaints ranging from half a mile to 15 miles away. How did these venues win approval to build near homes? One big reason was by telling city council members that noise won't be a problem because of new style speakers, better acoustical designs, partly underground structures, sound walls, speakers that would be aimed away from the houses. It'll be optimized, or sound will be distributed into the bowl. These sound like many of the answers that OKC residents have heard. Carol Hefner said the stage will be positioned north, so all the sound will be abated. Noise Live application that you received says the seating bowl will reduce noise emissions. It also says the subwoofer can be arrayed to provide low-frequency directivity, except that low-frequencies sounds are not positional and go in every direction. They're speaking technical terms that most people do not grasp. My concern is this same situation has happened over and over again across the nation. An amphitheater is proposed, residents have concern about noise, reasons are given why this won't be as loud as they fear. It gets approved, and after built, the noise pollution is so severe, health, stress levels, sleep, school, study, relationships, freedom to enjoy family are affected. The residents complain, but these complaints are met with, city council can't lower the volume. There's little you can do because of zoning code. We are within legal limits. You can see why I would be concerned with a possible approval of a large outdoor concert hall, less than a mile from my house. The
30
track
seconds,
record
please.
is not good, regardless of their claims. Mayor Holt, I want you to be able to get good sleep and go to work mentally able to make decisions. I want the same for my engineer husband and 7 children. Councilwoman Nikki Nice, last meeting you said, the health, safety, and welfare of our constituents resides within our hands. I want the residents of Ward 3, but also Ward 2 and Ward 5 and Ward 8 to be protected. You're the gatekeepers. Don't let a multi-million-dollar company hoodwink Oklahomans who deserve peace and quiet in their homes. If you want this here, find a location where nobody is jeopardizing their health or their family, their time with their children. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our residents who have signed up to speak, which brings us to item 14, adjournment, and we are adjourned.
Hey, Mayor, I have a question for you later. It's fine.